Hi, I'm Carolyn Grossi. Welcome to That's My Story on Rogers TV. Today, I'm welcoming Mona Matthews of Mona's Cottage Concierge and the author of a new cookbook that we're going to talk about today. We're going to hopefully have a delicious conversation with Mona today. So welcome, Mona, to Rogers.
Hi, Carolyn. Thank you for having me.
We are so happy to have you here. Of course, these shows are now being filmed via Zoom, so thank you for that. And also, we are just starting our second lockdown in Ontario, so food is vitally important to all of us. So I think it's a great time to talk to you and learn about you and some great recipes and how we can all stay healthy during some of these crazy times in our world today. So I always love to start at the beginning, Mona. Why don't you tell us a bit about who you are today?
I am a personal chef here in Georgina. And I came to this through originally being, part of a big family and loving food, loving to cook, learning from my mom, and then cooking for my family and friends, eventually leading me to a career of being a birth doula and postpartum doula. In that career choice, I cooked for families after a new baby was welcomed, and it was really appreciated by moms, tired moms, and families. And after doing that for 10 years, I really liked that aspect of my job. I got tired of being pulled out of bed at 3 a.m. and focused more on the postpartum part of the birth. And so it led me to decide that I would like to cook for families.
Wonderful.
So, I took some courses and I just followed that dream and made it a reality.
Wonderful. Well, we're glad you did. One of the things I wanted to start right at the beginning, if we could. So you're originally from Montreal or just outside of Montreal?
Yeah, south of Montreal. And I grew up on a farm, a large family.
Right.
I have 2 brothers and 7 sisters. And as I stated in my book, we all had a hand in helping to do chores and getting meals on the table.
That's great. Wow, that is a large family. Now, today you still really support local farmers and things like that. Do you think that certainly comes from you being a farm kid?
Definitely. It's that, and also just the quality and the freshness of the food that we can get locally.
Right. We're really lucky here in Georgina, aren't we?
Very much so.
Yeah, it's great. So how did you get from being on the farm to, Georgina? How did that start?
Well, there were a few stops along the way.
Yeah.
After I finished high school, it was just the thing that kids did in my community was to go into Montreal and seek employment. And so I started working for Sun Life Insurance Company, which was one of the largest employers in Montreal at the time.
Right.
And I worked there for a year and decided I needed to see a little more of the world. And that meant traveling to Ontario with a friend.
Yeah.
And that's where I met my husband here in Toronto.
So lived in the city for a number of years?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We lived in the city for probably 20 years, I think, before we moved up to East Gwillimbury. And I continued to commute, actually. I had a job in Unionville, so I would travel. And then eventually I stayed home to care for my granddaughter, which led me to then become the birth doula after attending my grandson's birth. And when we decided to retire and downsize, we really didn't want to move too far away. And Georgina has this beautiful Lake Simcoe, and that's where we wanted to retire. And we bought a small cottage on McCrae Beach.
It's pretty fabulous. Um, when when you said you went from, so you had an office type job for many years, and you were a working mom.
Yes.
What so when you decided to be a doula, what is involved with that? So do you have to get some training?
I
Mm-hmm.
registered with the largest doula organization in North America called
Right.
DONA. And it took me 2 years to become certified.
Wow.
So there is online training. There is actually attending births, getting positive reports from doctors, midwives, nurses, and moms and parents before you can reach certification
Wow.
and be able to attend births in hospitals and at home.
And you did that for 10 years?
I did.
Mm. Now,
And I
you told
loved
me
it.
a lot of that involved, obviously babies just join the world whenever they see fit. And most of the time it's the middle of the night. So you did a lot of long hours and calls in the middle of the night and things like that, right?
Yes, and before that, though, there's the whole meeting of the parents, doing prenatals. So a doula educates, informs, supports with comfort measures during labor,
Mm-hmm.
and just provides that kind of support. Nothing clinical.
Right.
That's what midwives and doctors and nurses do.
Mm-hmm.
But we are there to mother the mother. Really, that's what a doula does. We mother the mother, and by supporting the mom, we're also supporting the partner.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And the whole family. And then you said, which is not part of a doula's job necessarily, but it was part of you being you also helped with some food for the families.
Well, I'm a nurturer by nature.
Right.
And I just remembered when I had my babies, and there was really, I was on my own.
Right.
My mom was far away. Even my mother-in-law was, an hour away. And I think that new families, new moms need to be supported.
Mm-hmm.
And dads too. I mean, you're tired, let's face it, you're tired. So I would go, a postpartum doula would maybe help to bathe the baby, but mostly look after the family while mom focuses on looking after her baby.
Right.
So you might do a little light housework, sort of tidy up the kitchen. And for me, it was always preparing a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And they really liked that.
And food really is, I mean, it really brings people together, right? It's there in good times and not great times, and it certainly is something that can make people just feel comfortable and secure. Did you find that was the case when you helped provide meals to families?
Yes, very much so. And Carolyn, you mentioned the pandemic that we're in and that lockdown and so on.
Right.
I think people are turning to food for comfort. More people are cooking in their homes.
Yeah.
Yes,
sure.
we do want to support local restaurants for sure. You can do that, but you're not going to do that every day. So people are learning. Some people who never really cooked are turning to cooking and preparing food for their family.
Yeah, it's really good. So I can just say, I'm going to hold your book up and we are going to talk about it. I've made 3 recipes so far. So the butternut squash soup, which I love.
Oh, good.
Bit of a different twist on the one that I have, but I think that's great to always try new recipes, right? Might be something you've made before, but you might put something in it that I don't. So then it becomes a new thing for me. The bassa fillets, which I think I told you I love.
Good.
And what was the other one I had down here? Oh, see, I have it all earmarked too. Oh, I can't remember now. I think I'm a soup person, as I told you, so I'm always looking for great soup recipes. And I also, share your passion of using local ingredients and local farms and supporting them as much as we can. But absolutely, people are really turning to food and cooking and making their dollars stretch and shopping local. And, I love the clean out your fridge. What's that one called? The clean out your fridge soup. Yeah. That's a good one because you're supposed to be going to the store not as often. So you open that fridge door one day and say, I have these 5 things. What can I do? So that's a really helpful hint in there as well. So I love that. So when you grew up, did everybody help cook with your mom?
Well, we did. My mother had a huge vegetable garden. So it was everything from, planting, weeding, and then harvesting. I can remember her bringing in literally bushels of green beans, dumping them on the kitchen table and having to, prepare them for the freezer.
Right.
And yes, my mom was really the cook at the stove. We were all the sous chefs, chopping, washing, getting things ready, setting the table, doing the cleanup afterwards.
It's really a great way to learn and to get your kids involved. I mean, I saw something just this morning where, with everybody being at home more, how important it is to bring your kids into the kitchen and show them how meals are made and get them to participate in the entire process. It's a great family activity.
And I think that it will help if you have a picky eater, if they help in the preparation of it. They might change their mind and be more willing to try things.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea too. Yeah. Both my girls love cooking, and I think that's one of the reasons is they've always been included in it, right? It's a great way to bring the whole family together. So I love that idea. I'm sure you're doing the same for your grandchildren too.
Yes, and they do like to cook.
Do they? That's terrific. Yeah. Love it. We're going to take a break in a little bit, but when we come back, we're going to talk about how you took that passion and really have turned it into a job for yourself locally, and how you get the opportunity to share some of your great culinary skills with other people locally. So we're really looking forward to hearing a lot more about that. Where can we find you on social media, Mona?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Mona's Cottage Concierge.
And I do follow you. I love the pictures that you post of food. Sometimes we get little videos on your how-tos, which is great too. I say it's one of the most delicious local Instagram accounts because I always come off there and I'm hungry. So I sort of go from there to my kitchen to figure out what I can make or look similar to what you just did. So I love it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to That's My Story on Rogers TV via Zoom. Today we're talking with Mona Matthews of Mona's Cottage Concierge. Mona, I wanted to talk a bit about how you got your training locally because I think it's part of your really great story. So can you tell me a bit about the GTTI and how that came to be?
Well, I saw on social media, I think on Facebook, that the GTTI was offering a culinary course. I think it was 6 weeks, and it was free. That was amazing to me. I think that is a wonderful, wonderful resource that we have in our community, not just for cooking, but for many other things as well. And so I signed up with them. I was able to get my York Safe Food Handler, my Smart Serve, CPR, WHMIS training, as well as toured George Brown College, Georgian College, for people who, want to really take it a step further and become a professional chef caterer. I should mention too that I had some help from York Works. That's another wonderful resource we have in our community. They helped me put a resume together. They helped me to how to go for interviews, that kind of thing. And with their help, I followed that with my resume and decided, I think maybe I want to go out on my own rather than go and work in a cafe or a restaurant. I want to attempt to do this on my own. And that's what I did.
That's a brave step in itself, right?
Well, I had been self-employed being a doula, so I kind of
Mm.
had some confidence there and that this is something I want to do. And I think, I don't know, I think it comes with age too.
I love that. You can't get that training anywhere else, right?
No.
Right. So after you did that, you started your business, your Mona's Cottage Concierge.
Yes.
How did you get from there to being a personal chef? So how did you venture out?
Honestly, I just put together some little flyers. I dropped them off in mailboxes in my own neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even sure how I got my very first client, but you know, a lot of it is word of mouth.
Right.
And for me, social media played a big part of it too.
That's
I mean,
great.
you mentioned my food looks delicious. I think people saw those pictures, thought, I want to eat that food.
Yeah.
Right. So I started being hired to go into people's homes and prepare meals. And it might be one meal, it might be a whole week of meals that I would package up and label and refrigerate or get it ready for the freezer so that they could eat healthy food all week long.
It's a great service.
Avoid takeout if, you know, or junk food or whatever.
Yeah.
I always try to make my food as healthy, you know, as I can with local produce for sure.
Right. So today, well, not necessarily today because of COVID, but you have the privilege of working at Loretta Mary Home, which is one of the prettiest places in our whole town, certainly in Roaches Point. So how did that come to be?
I'm not exactly sure how they were looking for someone. I think up until about 4 years ago, the staff there were doing the cooking. Mm-hmm. And they were getting busier and they just found they wanted someone to come in and take over their kitchen.
Right.
And so they gave me a try and it worked out. And then it led to me doing, you know, more retreats. They started adding more retreats. And I'm not on staff. I'm still self-employed, but right. I do all of their retreats.
And tell us about Mary Home. What do they offer there so that people know?
Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful location right on the lake in Roaches Point. They are a spiritual retreat center. People can rent out their facility. Mm-hmm. They can accommodate, I think, 10 or 14 people. So besides running their own retreats, different groups, could be cancer support groups, could be yoga people, could be many, many different groups can go in there and run retreats. And everybody needs to eat, right?
That's right.
So when we do a retreat, we are providing breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks.
Wow. So one of the things we talked about is when you have a retreat center and you've got all these different people from all different backgrounds and you're a personal chef, how difficult or how interesting it is for you to be able to meet all the dietary restrictions of all the people. So I think you and I spoke before, right? Even 10 years ago, you might have one gluten-free person. And now there's certainly gluten-free and lactose intolerances and all kinds of different things. So how have you adapted some of your recipes and your cooking to accommodate larger groups?
Well, first of all, they staff at Loretta will give me a heads up. So I know when a group is coming in, who is restricted and who can eat, you know, what. Mm-hmm. And I also want to stress that part of my training, we take very seriously if someone has a dietary restriction. Yeah. I would never want someone to feel ill for eating something that I'm fully aware of. Maybe they have celiac disease. So I'm very careful and cautious that there's no cross-contamination in the kitchen. But I'm learning to adapt. Like you say, 10 years ago, maybe people were there weren't as many.
Right.
But I'm learning to adapt. I've had to learn how to cook gluten-free, where to buy products, how to make things tasty. And sometimes everyone is eating gluten-free and they don't even realize it. because pasta can be adapted, gluten-free breads. I buy a really good gluten-free flour, so for my baking. Everybody's eating gluten-free banana bread. If there's 2 or 3 people, if there's 10 people in the group and 2 or 3 people are restricted, it kind of makes sense for me not to make 2 different recipes.
Right. Well, so it's really important, as you said, the training that you got, because it prepared you to do that, right?
Yes.
And you always do the cooking on location, right? Everything's done in their kitchen.
Yes, everything is done there on site.
Yeah, that's good. So it's a controlled environment.
Very much, yes.
So, wow. So one of the things, you did send us some pictures that we're going to put up along with this interview as well. So I asked you about, as you got busier and started cooking for more people, you needed help, and you have a wonderful partner and sous chef and helper. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I started off on my own, but as I got busier, and my husband, he had the time to help me, he offered to come in and start off by washing dishes, which eventually led to him chopping vegetables and helping with the shopping. It's not just cooking. Yeah. When you're cooking for 10 or 15 people, there's a lot of shopping, planning, carrying in those groceries, having everything organized and labeled. And he has been such an asset. And he's a very friendly, amicable kind of guy. So, the men in the group, I think, could relate that we were a team. Yeah, and that's how we come across as a cooking team.
That's really great. You must have an ongoing list, certainly, of things that you need to get and places that you get it and support. Have you had any challenges during COVID getting the supplies that you need?
Well, not really, because to be honest, I'm not cooking a whole lot during this time. Right now, Loretta actually is not accepting any guests.
Right.
And I'm not going into people's homes. Because of, compromise.
Because of the limitations, for sure.
Yes, yeah. Right.
When I hear you talking about cooking for, 8, 9, 10 people, I know you and I spoke, we're both from big families. You certainly do think about your mother a lot, because my mother did that every day, coming from a family of 7, and there was always a straggler along the way. There was always somebody's friend or neighbor or somebody else coming in, or an aunt and uncle. And it was a constant 3 meals a day, shopping, making everything stretch and making it fun and healthy. It's a great life skill, for sure.
Yes, very much. And you know what, when it seems that when you're cooking for a big family like that, well, what's a couple more, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, cooking for 10 or 15 people at a time is not a big deal. And if more people are added, we can accommodate. I mean, Jim and I have cooked for 35, 40 people.
Wow.
Sometimes that happens at Loretta. They're not staying overnight. They're coming in for a day. And you're able to adapt.
So Mona, I want to make sure we get to a really important part of your book, which is available. I want to say again, if people go to your Instagram or Facebook page, they can get the information on how to order it.
Yes.
So why is it important for you to give back to our community?
Well, we just feel so fortunate. For myself and my husband, we've never really gone a day hungry. And I thought, this is something I have to do. I love my community, and $1 from each of the sale of my cookbook is going to the Georgina Food Pantry, and will continue to go to the Georgina Food Pantry. I was able to donate $200 last week.
That's fantastic.
And if it, I think every little bit helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. So it's really great. So you're certainly, although, Georgina was just the last place you ended on your journey so far, you've been able to support local farmers, work in a local business, give back to the community. Those are all really great things. So we're happy that you're doing that, for sure.
Thank you.
What are you most looking forward to after our lockdowns and COVID are done?
I really want to get back to cooking for, right now we're not even cooking for family. I mean, we might drop off food, and
Right.
that's just the two of us here, but I miss it.
Miss the people and the cooking?
Yes, very much so, because there's more to food than cooking and than just groceries,
Right.
right? It's all that. And I talk about cooking with love, and I do put love into the food. And I
It's
think
great.
people feel it. Yeah, I've been told they feel it.
Yeah, well, you can feel it for sure. I mean, I really want to thank you for sharing your story with us today. As I said to you, I think food is really important for us during these times, right? Cooking and staying healthy and learning how other people are doing it, and how they're coping. And you sharing all your recipes and your story with us in your cookbook is great. I want to make sure people know how to get it and start to follow you on social media. And just to thank you for, giving us some delicious stories and contributing back to Georgina and making it a great place for us all. So I want to thank you for that very much. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. And I think you're doing a terrific job hosting this show.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so that's it for today. I just want to remind people that if they know anyone else in Georgina with a great story to tell, that they can reach out to us at Rogers TV Georgina. Thanks, Mona.